All right, so here in our exercise file, I will share this with you to the chat. This is the same exercise what we have been using previously, the same document. So if you should already have the link, if not, I will put it here to the Zoom chat. So there it is. You can open this document now. So we have a couple of new exercises what we are going to be starting here. And today's topic is indeed events. So last time we were dealing with how to modify the DOM with JavaScript, but it was not done as an reaction to some event. So by an event, I mean when the user clicks a button or writes some input with keyboard or something like this. So here we have exercise 7, where the description is that we should continue with the training page 1 HTML. So this is the same HTML file what we have been using previously. And the task is now to set the first box there to the background color green when it is clicked. So let's see how these events are done in JavaScript. So the training page 1 HTML is this one what we used last time. So this is the same file what we used last time, and it is available in our GitHub repository, and the link for that you can find right from the Moodle. So let's practice with this same file. So here we have a couple of HTML elements and some CSS, but no JavaScript yet. So it looks like this. So now with the events in JavaScript, you can write an event handler. So a function which gets executed when an event happens, it's called an event handler. And each HTML element or DOM element can have a whole bunch of different event handlers. And we are going to be practicing with a couple of those. And maybe the most easiest to understand and easiest to begin with is the click event. And a click event means that you can run some function when you click on some element, some DOM element. And it does not have to be an element which looks like a button. You can have the click handler to run, meaning a function to run when you click on any DOM element. So these buttons, for example, if you have, let's see, for example, here, if I add here a button element like this is a standard HTML button element, like here. So this is just a DOM element, and this kind of list element here can have for example, a click event handler just the same as can this kind of button have. So there is no difference on that. You don't need to have a button to deal with, let's say, click events. There are some events which need some special DOM elements. For example, input events need input elements. So you can have for example, a text input field where you can write, and then that field has some special events which can be triggered, for example, when the text in the field changes. Of course, this kind of behavior is not available for let's say a div in the same way. Okay, but let's see, we have here now a button. Okay, how do we now write a function which gets executed when we click this button. This function is now called event handler. So we go here to our code and we add a new attribute to this button on click. And then we give a value to this attribute. And now this value is now the function which to execute. If I write here demo, like so, now it means that please execute function demo when this button is being clicked. So now we can go on and define a function demo here. And let's print out something to the console. For example, hello, like so. So now the idea is that with this code, we have given here an onclick attribute for this DOM element. And we have set the value to be a function call to a JavaScript function called demo. And this demo function gets executed when this event is triggered. And now, since this is a click event, it gets triggered when somebody clicks on this element. So now I have saved the file, I reload here. And when I click on this button, we get this hello text printed out in the console. So now, for example, if you want to do something based on this event handler, it depends on the situation, what you are doing on the application. Let's practice here some things. So, for example, if I would like to change the background color of the shopping list to some color when I click on this button. Now we can apply what we have learned last time. We know already how we can modify some DOM elements. Do you remember what was the logic when you want to modify some DOM element? What you need to do as a first thing? What is the first step to do? First thing is to get that element from the document object model so that you can access it with JavaScript, and then you can modify that element. That is the first thing. Okay, here is a question in the chat that we had a lesson mark for tomorrow. It has disappeared. Yes, I have it has not been cancelled. It has been moved to Monday. So you can see that on next Monday at 14 to 16, we have the lesson, which was previously for tomorrow. So tomorrow we don't have the lesson at 10 to 12. We have the tutoring session on the, I think it was on 15 to 16. But there is no lesson tomorrow. The lesson has been moved to Monday. Right. So if we now would like to get access to this shopping list here, we need to analyze this HTML code and come up with a way that what is the best way to get access here. You remember that there is many ways how you can get access to DOM elements. You can access them by, let's say, their ID, by their class, or you can access them by traversing the tree hierarchy, selecting some element, for example, higher above, and then going down in the tree by accessing the children. But here we have a nice class list, so we could access the element with that. So I could go on here that say that, okay, let's access the list. We'll save the reference to the element here to this list variable. And then write here that, okay, document, this is the global variable what the browser offers, where you can access all the capabilities offered by the browser DOM. And now we have multiple ways what we can do. We can use the get elements by class name, for example. Oh, not get, but get. So we could use here by this one, for example. No, not this one, but this one. Or we could do something else. But I want to use the Qre Selector. This is my personal favorite. Because with this, I can use the same selector syntax what I use for CSS. So when you know CSS, accessing elements with this Qre Selector is super easy because it works exactly the same way. So when I want to access this class list, I write here dot list because this dot in the CSS selector syntax refers now to a class. Okay. So now we have access to this list. Now we could go on and set, okay, list. Then, for example, we are dealing with the background color. So if we want to set that one to be value to something new, we assign a value for it. And let's say we give it to be green, like so. Okay, so now we have code which gets executed when we click on a button. And as a result, that code prints hello text to the console, then finds selects the element based on this Qre Selector, finds a class list, and then we modify the background color of that element to be green. Let's see. If we run this, reload, now when I click here, it gets turned to green. Okay, so now we have quite a lot of new capabilities. We can do something as a reaction to some event. This event is now click event. All right, so now we have a small exercise for you. Okay, there's a question that does Qre Selector have any advantage of get element or it's just personal preference? Yeah, it's not personal preference. So to my knowledge, there is no other advantage. With the Qre Selector, you have to remember that, for example, here I am selecting a class list, and a class always refers to the basic logic that multiple elements can have the same class, whereas ID can be with a single element. The Qre Selector method, it gets the first match for that selector. So if I would have multiple list elements, then this Qre Selector would select the first of those list elements. If you want to select all elements which match the Qre Selector, you have to use the Qre Selector all method. It returns all elements of the node that match selectors. So then the Qre Selector will get you a kind of an array, and then you will need to deal with the array. Deal it as an array, basically, even if you have a single element which matches the list. So that's the way. The Qre Selector, of course, has the benefit of creating much more complex selector logic than what you can do simply with by get element by ID or get elements by class name methods. So that's the added benefit. But in this case, when we are selecting only a class using Qre Selector versus get elements by class name, well, there is not really any difference. The get elements by class name would be the same as we would use this get Qre Selector all. So if I use this Qre Selector version, which gets the first one, I don't need to deal with the array. So I guess that's also a small bonus of kind. All right. So now is exercise 7. Your task is to set the background color of the first box green when it is clicked. The first box here means this one, which says that this is the first box. So here, when you click on this box, the color of that box should be set to green. That is your task. I will leave now this code here visible and pause the screen share, and I'll give you 5 minutes time to do it. I think that's enough for exercise 7. So you can think about a little bit on your own, and then get some hands-on code writing, and not just listening. So exercise 7, 5 minutes time. We are now at 12:23. So we will continue at 12:28 in 5 minutes. So exercise 7. Okay, exercise 7. The task was to create functionality which allows you to click on this first box, and then as a result, that element turns to green, the background color. So what to do? Well, you need to do something as a result of clicking that element. You need to add a click handler. So on click here equals some value, let's say ex7. I will create a function called ex7. Then here, define that function. And then using the same logic what we did here, I will copy this code like so. And then just change the selector. We are now dealing with here with this ID first box. So let's use that one as the selector. So since it's an ID, it now goes with hashtag first box. And let's put this variable as well to more meaningful name, like so. So now it should work. Let's see. Yes. Another alternative for this is to use so-called this parameter here. So when we call this this ex7, we can here write that something known as this should be given as a parameter. This here refers now to the DOM element, which is being clicked. So then what we can do, what we can do is that we accept here the parameter, like so. That's now the parameter, the this, which was clicked. And then we can simply say here element style. And this selector is not needed at all because we get the element which is being clicked already as parameter. So that's another alternative, and it is quite convenient in many situations. So I can go and verify that it works. Yes, it works. So that's another way to do this exercise. The benefit of doing it with this is that now if you would, for example, need to have the same kind of functionality for this second box, we could simply go on here and copy this on click handler, like so. And the ex7 function would remain the same, in contrast to the earlier solution where we had a selector code inside the ex7 function. So with that logic, we could not do it like this, that if we want to do the same behavior for this element as well, then with the first implementation, we could not get the exact same behavior in this way. So now we have behavior here that for the first box and the second box, we can click, and both of them will turn to green. So that's also something which is good to be aware of, that you can give here some parameters, of course, because it is a function call. But here we have this special this keyword, which refers to the element which is being receiving the event. Okay, so then we have exercise 8, which is a bigger exercise. So here, step A, you should create a new HTML file where you have a box visible on the screen. The box should have black borders, width 100 by 100 pixels. And the JavaScript code part is that you write a click handler, which works so that when you click on that box, you add an X mark to the center. This X can be simply a piece of text. No need to add any graphic. So that's the exercise 8. And the ultimate goal of exercise 8, it has been divided into these 5 steps. The ultimate goal of this exercise 8 is to implement a tic-tac-toe game. And we already have all the capabilities what we need to do that. We have the click handler. We have the capability of modifying the DOM content. So we can create a tic-tac-toe game with these capabilities. And that is now the task. Here, exercise 8a, you should start to do this. And since now you need to create a new HTML file, maybe 10 minutes is good time for this. If you are very fast, you can then already proceed into this step B or step C, even if you are super fast. But the goal within 10 minutes exercise time is to achieve this. Any questions about this? How to add this X, if you add it as the X as a text, how to do it? That is something that we discussed last time. So hopefully you still remember. If you don't remember, maybe you have some notes what you can check out, or you can maybe check it out from a search engine as well, if you can come up with the correct keywords. But that's something what you need to think about on your own for this 8a. All right, 10 minutes for exercise 8a. Let's go. We'll pause the screen here so you can see maybe this part is the most relevant here. Or let's see, can we get the JavaScript all visible? Yes. All right. 10 minutes for exercise 8a, and we continue at 12:45.